One thing that really appeals to me with the layout of this portrait-style codex is the fact that with the square page format, I can utilize both vertical and horizontal images, and when laid out correctly, they actually complement each other, even though one page may be a vertical and the other page may be a landscape. This codex represents a personal project I undertook to document many of the icons in the mountain bike world through portraiture. I really enjoyed shooting with Paul Bastagocia. He was just so incredibly humble for how talented he was. I really enjoyed this portrait shoot with Ganrita. She's a very warm and engaging person, but like so many of the portraits that I did for this series, I wanted to show another side of her, so I asked for her game face. Oh boy, did I get it. Joe Murray is a mountain bike Hall of Famer for his time as a pioneer mountain bike racer, but to this day, this guy is a huge proponent of Type 2 fun, also known as Sufferfest, which is great because for the last decade and a half, his Sufferfests have resulted in the look and feel and performance of countless Shimano group sets that have reached out and touched millions of cyclists around the world. Jill Kittner was initially somewhat suspicious of me wanting to shoot a portrait of her. Her focus was on racing. Why should she take time to shoot a portrait? But our session was incredibly fast and incredibly productive, and since then she has always been willing to sit for me or shoot with me. She is genuinely a treat to work with. Every person in this series of portraits is a mountain biking legend, but Kyle Strait is a mountain bike legend still in the making. He first blew people's doors off in 1999 dirt jumping at Sea Otter at the age of 12. From there, he's gone on to compete in every single Red Bull Rampage event that's ever been held and has won it twice. Absolutely legend. Jeff Kabush is a legendary Canadian hardman from the World Cup cross-country race circuit. He was one of the first guys to run a 1x back in Bromont in 2008, when everyone else was still rocking a 2x. My main purpose in photographing this portrait of Jeff, though, was to show these amazing mutton chops that have come to define his look. That's the last thing anyone sees when they look over their shoulder before he passes them. Jeff and those mutton chops. Working one-on-one with some of the world's best freeriders was an amazing experience. Timo Pritzel was just an incredibly humble individual, and Kurt Voorhees, oh man, working with that guy, you never know what's going to happen. It's always fun. Steve Pete, what a legend. Man, working with that guy was always a pleasure. On the one hand, he was so much larger than life, and yet at the same time, so incredibly humble. I really enjoyed working with him. Rob Roskop is another one of those behind-the-scenes founding members of the world of mountain biking. If you've ever admired a Santa Cruz bike or thrown a leg over one, you should thank Rob. The reason why is because from the very beginning, Santa Cruz Bicycles was his baby, his vision. And while he may have sold the company a few years ago, even to this day he maintained a hand in day-to-day operations and in making those bikes what they are now. I count myself very fortunate to have had time with Nathan Rennie while he was riding for the syndicate. He was an impressive individual on a bike and just such a true pleasure to work with. I snapped this portrait of Kathy Pruitt somewhere in the wilds of Scotland in 2009 or 2010. Kathy is an incredibly warm and bubbly person, and I wanted to contrast that, so I deliberately asked to shoot her in the gate, ready to race, game face, and I definitely got that. This portrait of Matt Hunter was one of the first I shot for this series, and I feel especially proud that it ever happened. Matt was traveling home from Costa Rica with a layover in Seattle and was kind enough to catch a cab into town, sit for me in my fabulous studio, which happened to be an alley in Pike Place Market, and that he believed enough in my vision to make this shoot happen. I've been very lucky as a photographer. It's opened a lot of doors and given me unparalleled access to some amazing people. In this case, Adam Craig. This was a commission shoot for Bike magazine that I photographed in 2008 or 2009 in Adam's adopted hometown of Bend, Oregon. In 2006, Dan Atherton had no idea who I was, but he still was polite enough to sit for a portrait with me. However, you can definitely tell he's a bit suspicious as to who this kook was shoving a camera in his face. Whereas his brother G, he knew me from the Rampage and was much more composed. I think I took this portrait of Rachel Atherton in 2007. I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that it was her first trip to Mont Saint Anne, and I feel privileged to have captured a small slice of her greatness before she took the World Cup by storm. Clay Porter is a writer and racers cinematographer. He is not only a brilliant visionary, but he can definitely ride a bike. And having the opportunity to have him sit for me was pretty special because his vision has really helped set the world of mountain biking on fire. 2007 at Mont Saint Anne was a very productive year for me. I got a lot of amazing portraits, including this one of Annika Bierton. That smile she's got, that says it all. I always admired Mick Hanna and was really disappointed when he stepped off the World Cup circuit for a couple years. And I was so incredibly stoked when he came back that I wasted no time in snapping this portrait. Working with Wade Simmons, the godfather of freeride, was an incredible rush. Part of what really appeals to me in the makeup of this image, though, is the medium. Lith printing created a grittiness and grain structure that isn't actually on the film. It really gave this a much more rugged feel that perfectly suits the Godfather. Colin Dunn. Man, that guy always had a smile on his face. He was so much fun to work with. His freeride mountain bike career was brief, but he was still influential before he transitioned to motorcycles. I was really saddened to hear of his death in 2019 when he was practicing for his favorite event, the Pikes Peak Time Trial, which he had won multiple times. Carlin, you will be missed. Rest in peace, buddy. Aaron Chase is always a lot of fun to work with. He's very creative on his own and is very camera aware. We did this entire shoot inside of a tent in Whistler Village during the 2009 Crankworks Festival in all of about 60 seconds. It was quick. Working with Richie Schley, another one of the godfathers of freeride, that was a genuine treat. Particularly because to this day, Richie is still pushing boundaries in the mountain bike world. Never mind that he's been around since forever, but it was a genuine treat to sit and capture a bit of his soul with this image. I shot this portrait of John Cowan at his legendary Jump Jam in 2007. I think that was actually the last jump jam he ever had. Anyway, I didn't have much time, but he and I made it work. Monk Dog, I miss you, man. It's safe to say that if you were ever a podium threat on the World Cup circuit, that at one point or another, Chris Monk Dog Vasquez was your mechanic. The thing about him was he forgot more about how to make a bike go fast than most mechanics will ever learn in a lifetime. He is still missed to this day. I shot this portrait of Cedric Gracia on the first gondola of the day at Mont Saint Anne in 2007. It was a very informal shoot. Pretty much I got on the gondola and Cedric happened to get on with me. I pulled my camera out and we started goofing off. To this day, I think it's one of the best portraits of Cedric that I've seen, simply because it really captures his personality. Say what you will about Brian Lopes being a bit of a prickly individual. At the end of the day, Brian Lopes has always been a professional, and this shoot went incredibly smoothly simply because he brought his A game to something as low priority as a portrait shoot with me. My goal in pursuing this project was to show the people that I was documenting as individuals and to strip away indications of sponsorship or industry affiliation so that the viewer could focus on them as a person. I think that for the most part I succeeded. Every person that I documented for this project has impacted the world of mountain biking in one form or another, whether that was as a racer, a freerider, or maybe somebody a bit more behind the scenes. But all of them have definitely created a lasting impact and left a legacy on the world of mountain biking.